Okay, I have the clicker now. We'll see how I do, but I have it. All right, so we are embarking on a journey this month into the book by Gay Hendricks called The Big Leap. And it really is about taking the steps, taking a very deep breath and leaping into a life that is in your zone of genius, a life lived from your zone of genius. Now, this is the very first Sunday of 5 Sundays, so my job is to introduce this zone. Reverend Shell, who adores this work and this book, will be actually doing 2 Sundays this month and her workshop. I want to tell you just a story about my personal connection with this. I was working at the Bodhi Spiritual Center in Chicago and teaching a class on this book. And we had it was a pretty big church. We had like 200 people, so we had paid staff, and we were having a retreat at the end of the month of studying the Big Leap. And we were visioning about the coming year, and I had this realization that I wasn't going to be there. I had this realization that staying there was not my big leap, that my big leap was leaving. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, when God gives you a 2x4? You ever had a spiritual 2x4? But I told Reverend Mark Anthony Lord, who was a spiritual director there, I said, Mark, I just don't think I'm going to be here. And he goes, no, I don't think you are either. And it's like, okay, great. No, to tell you a true story. Within that week, a friend of his came through Chicago, and he says, hey, Rev D, what are you doing? What are you doing? I said, well, I think I'm leaving. And he goes, well, where are you going to go? I said, I don't know. And he goes, oh, go to North Carolina. They have a little church there that needs you. And I called the board president that day. The next week, flew down for an interview, and 2 months later was working in North Carolina for the very first time as a senior minister. So it was my first church on my own, and it was a big leap. So anyway, I just share that story because it's kind of like as we move through the different zones, because there are 4 of them as Gay Hendricks outlines. So one of the things he says is that each of us has an inner thermostat that determines how much love, success, and creativity we allow ourselves to enjoy. We have an inner thermostat set by our childhood, set by our parents, set by early influences. And when we reach whatever that thermostat is, if your thermostat is low, you might reach it sooner than if it's high, that we will self-sabotage, that we will find a way of going back into our comfort zone. He says it causes us to drop back into an old familiar zone where we feel secure. He says, unfortunately, our thermostat setting usually gets programmed in early childhood before we can think for ourselves, before we can decide for ourselves, plan for ourselves, choose for ourselves. He says, once programmed, our upper limit thermostat setting holds us back from enjoying all the love, financial abundance, and creativity that is rightfully ours. Now, Pam read the reading, which ultimately asked the question, are you willing to take the big leap to your ultimate level of success, love, money, and creative contribution? Are you? Good. I was hoping you'd say that. I mean, why not, right? And it's very interesting because when we come here and we talk about this expansion, we talk about evolving and growing and changing, it's never because where you are isn't okay. It's never because your life isn't just great, just the way it is. But we are evolving beings. We should always be, as Mary Morrissey says, on the green growing edge of our own evolution. No matter how old you are, no matter where we come from, no matter what our current situation is, there can always be more joy, more abundance, more health, right? Always. So it behooves us. I remember also in the reading today, it said something about, wouldn't it be, if having a great life is possible, isn't it worthwhile to discover how many of us can do it? And I remember a minister friend of mine named Edward Viljoen, Reverend Edward Viljoen from South Africa. He was doing a sermon once to ministers. He was talking to a group of ministers at a retreat, and he said, if you and I can't do it, why would we think anyone can do it? And I love that question because it was, if we can't demonstrate happiness, what makes us think anybody can demonstrate happiness? If we can't live a happy life, what makes us think anyone can live a happy life? So as practitioners of this philosophy, it is up to us really to take the principles we teach and practice and learn and espouse and actually demonstrate them in our lives. That I would call that practical spirituality. If it doesn't show up for you in your life, then of what value is it really? And we also, by the way, hold here that the world working for everyone is a global vision that is accomplished by the transformation of individual souls. You get happy, more of the world gets happy. You get abundant, more of the world gets abundant. It's a numbers game. So the more of us who can give up worry, fear, doubt, lack, judgment, hatred, vengeance, revenge, the more of us who can give all that up and take a stand for joyful collaboration, for seeing the Christ presence in each other, for being kind and compassionate and forgiving, the more of us that do that, the more chance there is the world will begin to reflect those values. Can you see that? All right, so here are the 4 zones of being and doing that Gay Hendricks speaks about in his book. The zones of genius, which is the most interesting, of course, and we're going this month. At the end of the month, we want all of you in your zone of genius. But there are other zones where we tend to live. Zone of excellence, zone of incompetence, and zone of competence. So let's unpack these just a little bit. The zone of incompetence, and by the way, this isn't just me talking. This is an invitation for you to look into your own life and begin to sort out where any of this is applicable to you personally. So the zone of incompetence is the zone where you are engaged in activities that you are not good at. In fact, it may be zones of activities that you're terrible at. One of the examples he uses in the book is he's coaching someone, and they spent hours one afternoon trying to replace the ink in their printer, or set up a printer, I can't remember, but it had something to do with a printer. And this was a very high-level guy, and he spent hours trying to set up this printer, hours on the phone with tech support. Has anybody ever done that? And the question is, if you are incompetent at setting up printers, why would you not do something else besides spend your time and your energy doing that? Because there are people who are very, very good at the things that you're not very good at. You know what I like to do? I actually kind of put a dollar value on my time. So just for the sake of being ridiculous, let's say my time is worth $1,000 an hour. It's not. No, that's too stupid. Let's see. let's say my time is worth $50 an hour, and I spend 5 hours working on a printer. That's $250 of productive time that I've spent doing something I'm not good at. And you could probably hire somebody to come do that for you for an hour and would spend $50 paying them. So just be looking to see, baking a cake from scratch is not my forte. It's way better to just go buy a cake, even an expensive cake. So where in your life are you spending time doing things that you are not competent to do, for whatever reason you're doing them? So just be willing to take a look at that. Incompetence. Yep. So competence is those things that you're not bad at, but other people are better. So where do we spend our time engaged in activities that do not bring us joy, we're not enjoying it, we're grumbling through the whole thing, and the end result is at best mediocre. So in his book, Gay talks about a woman who came to see him who had all kinds of symptoms. Symptoms like chronic fatigue symptoms or fibromyalgia symptoms, where she just had no energy, she just had no zest for living. Now he called this, let me find it here, he called it diseases of unfulfillment. Now, diseases of unfulfillment. What happens when you are not inspired by life? What happens when you don't like your life? When you don't like how you're spending your time? When you're not excited about how you're spending your time? You're not loving the people you're spending your time with? He's addressing what happens when we're living in this kind of mediocre comfort zone. So we just look to see. Now, I know some of you are only 23. I myself am 75, and I myself know that I have way less time in front of me than behind me. Can anybody relate? I know, it's Cape Coral. No, in Chicago, we probably had 150 40-year-olds and 50 60-year-olds or something, but. So I'm very cognizant that I don't want to waste too much time doing things or living in such a way that I'm not a happy camper, and nor do you. And I don't think anybody should. I don't care how old you are. So this zone of competence produces problems for our body, because we all know that there is a connection between your mind and your body. A stimulated mind, a happy mind, a joyful mind, a loving mind secretes chemicals into the body which assist the healing process, the rejuvenation process, the restoration process of our cells and our organs. And at the same time, a bored mind, an angry mind, a mediocre mind secretes hormones into the body as well, and those hormones tend to disintegrate the body, to cause disease or discomfort in the body. So these zones of competence and incompetence are not happy places to live. Do you know people who are in those zones, right, who spend most of their time unhappy about how it is, but not knowing how to, or not willing to, take the steps to make it better? We do not want to be on that list of people. You know, Steve Jobs, one of my heroes, one of the things he said before he passed is he wrote, "I wake up every morning and look at myself in the mirror and ask myself, are you excited to go do what you're about to go do today?" And he said, if the answer is no, too many days in a row, it's time to change. And I think that's good advice for us. Now, everyone has a bad day, so you don't want to throw out the baby with the bathwater just because you drank too much and you have a hangover. Thank you for the laughter. It's good. I work hard at this. So, so we want to really see what's possible beyond incompetence and competence. Now, this one, I love this zone because it's where most of us live. The zone of excellence is where you do what you do very, very well. All the people around you love that you are doing it because it is how you provide your world with sustenance. It's how you pay the bills. It's how other people benefit from your doing what you do in excellence. But it's a trap because for the person who's living in the zone of excellence, it's not necessarily their zone of genius. Just because you're good at something does not mean you should be doing it. Because the question is not, are you good at it? The question is not, does your doing it provide money for your family or value to your employer? The question is, does it provide value to you? Are you alive when you are doing what you do with excellence? It is your zone, it is, for most of us, a comfort zone. Now, as this month progresses, and part of Reverend Shell's workshop is breaking through the glass ceilings of our life. Normally, the move from excellence to genius requires an act of courage or an act of faith. It is a radical act to leave what is comfortable and profitable to move into something else. Can you feel it a little bit like, ooh, what would that look like? But the problem is that most of us made the choices for our life when we were too young to make the choices. So, how many of us became doctors because our mother was a doctor, or became firemen because our father was a fireman, or ended up getting married and having children because that's what they told us to do? Because being an excellent dentist doesn't mean it's your zone of genius, because your zone of genius is divine. Your zone of genius is those gifts and talents that you are uniquely able to provide this world. It's your calling. I love that word, actually, for what we're talking about. It's like, what are you called to do? Because if you are called to paint, and all you do is fill teeth for your whole life, you may be great at it, but your calling will go unsatisfied, and the world will go without your gifts and talents. So it's exciting, really, to begin to get underneath your degree or underneath your skill sets and to find out what, and we'll explore it more. We can't do it all right now unless you want to stay till 6. If you want to stay till 6 and pay me $100, I'll do it. I'm kidding. I'm not doing it. So we have a whole month, right? We have a whole month to explore this together. But where you really want to be is in that zone of genius. We want to do, what's the name of the book? The Big Leap. Yeah, we want to make this big leap into a different way of being, a different way of showing up. Now, it isn't easy also because your spouse doesn't want you to leave the job that's paying the mortgage. Right? And by the way, when you jump into your zone of genius, you're not going to give up money. I mean, that's ridiculous, because who was it who said, follow your bliss, the money will follow? Who said that? Joseph Campbell. So your being in life, being creative in a way that only you can be creative. Now listen, people say this all the time. I've been doing this a long time. People go, well, I'm not a creative type. You are. You are inherently creative. You are made in the image and likeness of the source of ultimate, pure creativity. You are creative. Now, when you say, I'm not creative, what you mean is you can't paint or you can't draw. But when we talk about creativity this month, the sowing seeds of creativity, we're talking about sowing seeds of letting loose from within you that which will make your heart sing and float your boat in a way that nothing else can. So for this week, I think the job this week, the takeaway for you this week, is to simply begin to notice and to make it okay to notice. And by the way, you don't have to talk to anybody about this. You don't have to go home and say, oh, I was at the center yesterday and I'm looking to see if I'm incompetent. Right? Or where my zone, because they're not going to know what you're talking about. But if you have people in your life that will take that kind of information lightly, then by all means do. So, where we're headed is into the zone of genius. To be living your life from that place where you could stand and say with full authority, it is for this for which I was born. I am here to do this. Now, I spent most of my adult life in technology, and it was a wonderful career, and I was incredibly good at it. And by the time I was 45, I was no longer happy in it. I felt unsatisfied. I felt a little bit the diseases of unfulfillment, a little bit of divine discontent in the awareness that there was more for me. And it was really in a center just like this one, again a little bit bigger, that I went for the first time and heard words of possibility thinking, of somehow somebody giving me permission to go somewhere else, do something else. And I did not have a family and kids, so I was not bound by what many people are bound by. And that's a big hurdle, right, to sort all that out. And I knew in the room that I wanted to retire in a people industry. Like I wanted to retire loving people. I wanted to retire being a voice of positive affirmation and not a computer geek my whole life. Now, since I've actually discovered that the high-tech, high-touch connection is a beautiful one, so that led me to this day, of course. But I left my lucrative law firm job and jumped into ministry and have been really doing it ever since. And my agreement with God was this: I'll do ministry, but don't make me work outside of ministry, like so many of my colleagues do. I want to do only this. I want my money to come from doing only this, my food to come from only doing this. I didn't want to work for McDonald's and be a minister. And that has been the case. Once again, and for many, many years, that was enough. I was in my zone of genius, I was thriving. Then at 64, I got another call, and that was to become a photographer. And it started with a trip to Africa. And as most of you know, I've been to Africa a dozen times in 10 years. And I spent many, many years creating photos and selling photos and doing ministry at the same time. But clearly, again, what's important here is are you heeding the call that assures that your life, as you move forward, will be peace-filled, joy-filled, love-filled, abundance-filled, health-filled, energy-filled, zest-filled. So that's where we're going. We're going into the zone of genius this month. And I can't wait to see what you do. So let me see if I can put some pictures around this. This is a peacock in their zone of incompetence. Yes. Actually, the peacock's true zone of incompetence is swimming. They are so bad at swimming, I couldn't even find a picture of a peacock in water. That's how bad they are at it. So I would actually say this flying, this should be a peacock in their zone of competence. They can fly, but not very well, because they're kind of heavy. This is a peacock being excellent. I mean, this is, right? This is an excellent peacock. It's beautiful, it's being what peacocks do, does it very well. Nobody can do it better than that. But we all know what the true zone of genius for a peacock is, right? This is a peacock in their zone of genius. So could this creature be happy never doing this? Maybe. Could this creature be fulfilled never doing this? No. Would the world be a same place if the peacock never did this? No. So it is with you and I, that we want to be giving ourselves the full fulfillment of being that, and we want the world to benefit from our being that. So the question is, how much good can you tolerate, and how much great can you handle? So we're going to close here because we have 4 more weeks of unpacking this. But the call to action this week for you is, what aren't you good at but keep doing anyway? What are you good at but it fails to satisfy you? What are you excellent at, and though you are comfortable, your boat is not being floated? Like you still come home drained, even though you spent a day being excellent. So for this week, just notice and answer the questions. Answer the question, are you willing to take the big leap to your ultimate level of success, love, money, and creative contribution? Your willingness, your yes to that question, will activate the universe to support you, guide you into the vision of what that might look like. So your job, do it one more time. Are you willing to take the big leap to your ultimate level of success, love, money, and creative contribution? Yes. Prove it. Okay, so let's do, this is our affirmation. We'll close this lesson with this affirmation. I'll read it first, and then you'll read it, you'll shout it back at me. I say yes to feeling good. I say yes to my whole life going well. I am willing, ready, and committed to getting out of my own way and living my life in my zone of genius. I expand in abundance, success, and love every day as I inspire those around me to do the same. By the way, this will be our affirmation for the entire month because it's right from Gay Hendricks. So please, your turn. And so it is. Can you feel it? Ooh, yes. All right, so let's just take all of this and bundle it up into a moment of prayer. For those of you, I know we have several new people today. For those of you who are in the room, we are not praying to a reluctant deity to do something for us that we cannot do for ourselves. We pray in such a way that we're aligning ourselves with that which is already and has always been happening for us. We take one step towards God, and God takes 1,000 steps towards us. So we simply pray to open our minds and to align ourselves with the stream of well-being that is always and has always been surrounding us. And so let's do that together. If it's comfortable, close your outer eyes. We close our outer eyes because the world as it is in this moment is the result of everything that has come before. It is the way it is because of all the thoughts thought before this moment. And so we let it be because we want to think a new thought. We want to bring a new idea. And so as we close our outer eyes, we open our inner eyes, and we gaze into that space and place and dimension within our beingness that is connected to the source of creativity in the cosmos. We are connected to that creative source. We are created by that creative source. We are one with it. And so it is from that place that I know that each one of us has within us something that is genius, something the world is hungering for, wanting, desiring, hoping to see, catch, and embrace. And so what I know is as we make ourselves available to that energy within us, that it begins to pay attention to us. We become flooded with creative ideas, with thoughts of expansion, of growth, of evolution. And that wherever a way is made, the way to make that way also appears. So how to get there also comes with the vision. So what I accept for each one of us here in this room is that something shifts. If it hasn't already, it will. If it has already, it will shift more. And that the end result of the shifting is an opening, a new expression, a new allowing, a new feeling tone of moving in our day-to-day living. So it moves from mediocre to excellent, to genius. And so I'm grateful in advance for all the demonstrations, all the aha moments, all the creative self-expression that's going to take place in Cape Coral, Florida this coming week. And so we give thanks for this. We give thanks that life is palliable. Mm-hmm. Whatever we give. Oh my God, we give thanks. Malleable. We're grateful that life is malleable. It's like Play-Doh. We can make it into anything we want to make it into. That is our God-given right and our God-given inheritance. And so we're grateful for it. We simply allow it to be. We give thanks and move forward with anticipation, expectation for all the good that's on the way. And we do this for each other and for ourselves by saying, and so it is, amen.